Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm reviewing the E1000 WT wireless headset from EKSA. Like all of my gaming headset reviews, I'll be using the built-in microphone for the whole video with no adjustments, outside of making sure that the gain levels are even in post. Let's get into the specs and features first before I cover the good and any potential bad with this headset. The E1000 WT features 50mm drivers with 32 ohms impedance, a 20 Hz to 20 kHz frequency range, and a 105 decibel sensitivity plus or minus 3 decibels. This has a lithium battery that provides up to 36 hours of use time with the lights off. EKSA doesn't specify how much time you get with the lights on, but this does have a quick charge feature, so you can get 3 hours of use with the lights off with the headset with a 10-minute charge. It takes 2.5 hours to fully charge the headset. For the microphone, this is a condenser mic with an omnidirectional polar pattern. This has a sensitivity of -42 decibels plus or minus 3 decibels and an impedance of 2.2 kilo ohms. This has the Voice Pure ENC feature, which includes a noise identifying mic and a call mic. EKSA says the dual mic system identifies human and ambient sounds. So the environmental noise cancellation technology reduces about 99.8% of background noise, offering a distraction-free gaming experience. The main difference with the E1000 WT to the E1000 is the 2.4 GHz wireless connection that you get via a USB dongle, which has a ultra-low latency of less than 30 milliseconds. Inside of the box you have the headset, 3.5mm audio cable, Type-C charging cable, USB dongle, carrying pouch, and user manual. This works with all consoles, although there is a bit of a difference, so you can use the wireless dongle with the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and with the built-in 7.1 chip you do get surround sound with the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and of course you will get that on PC as well. For the Xbox it is a little bit different because the dongle will not work with that, so you will have to use the 3.5mm headphone jack in order to connect to an Xbox, and that will be the same for the Nintendo Switch. Looking at the physical buttons, starting on the left-hand side, you will have the retractable microphone. Next to that, you will have the audio jack input for the audio cable. Above that is a little LED light that flashes when this is in a connection mode or it is connected. Above that, you have the power button, and then you have the ENC button that turns the ENC on or off for the microphone, and then above that is the volume scroll wheel. On the right hand side you have the USB Type-C input, that is what you use to recharge this, and then there is a little LED light indicator that lets you know if this is charging or not. The list price for this on Amazon is $69.99, but this does have frequent sales and coupons, which currently there is a $20 off coupon, so you can get this for $49.99. Moving on, let's talk about the software that you can download on PC really quick. So this is pretty simple, pretty basic and straightforward. The first tab here is the 7.1 surround sound, and you have 5 different modes. You have movie, FPS, MOBA, the EKSA standard, and then customize. With this, I personally have been using the FPS. It just seems to sound a little bit better in my opinion, but if you don't like any of these, of course you could just customize that. Next to that, you have the stereo sound tab for music. With this, you have pop, rock and roll, deep bass, jazz, classic, EKSA standard, and customize for the different sound profile options that you can choose from. And then last you have mic ENC, and really with this all it allows you to do is turn on the environmental noise cancellation if you want to use it. If you don't, you can turn it off, but by default this is turned on. Next, let's get into the things that I like about this headset, and we will start with the sound first, which is solid. Now this isn't going to blow you away necessarily, but considering it's a third of the price of some other brands with their headset, this sounds really good. The various EQ settings help create the sound profile you want, so you can get more bass or treble out of this, and paired with the 7.1 surround sound, it does come together for a good gaming experience, especially in first-person shooters. The software offers the options you really need without anything extra, which is a good thing in my opinion because it doesn't feel like it's bloated software with a bunch of different things that you probably would never use. The only downside here is the lack of support for consoles. So you only really get to use this software and the ability to change the EQ settings if you're going to use this with a PC. Most consoles do offer some level of EQ adjustment for headsets through the operating system. They may not be as complex as what you would get with the PC version for the EKSA headset here, but it is there, so there are some adjustments that you could still do on a console. On a side note, if you do have one of these newer handhelds that are out there like the One X Player 2 or any of them that actually have a USB input on them, you still get to use the wireless dongle, so you could use that in the wireless mode with that handheld. So I've used this with the One X Player 2 and the AOK Zoe A1. It's worked perfect, it still sounds great, and it just pairs so nicely with a handheld like that because you get to use the USB dongle. Now, I've talked about the weight of a headset and the pressure it can put on your head being a deal breaker for me in previous headset reviews, because long-term use for me personally can actually give me headaches. And I'm happy to say that this headset is actually lightweight and it doesn't put a lot of pressure on my head at all with longer play sessions. The headset has a good amount of flex to it with the headband because it's mostly made out of plastic, which also is why it is lighter. But if you do push that flex too far, you do have the potential to break it. So there's a little bit of a trade-out with this being lighter and the build material here. The polyurethane leather ear pads are quite comfortable. It does help with these longer play sessions, but any polyurethane leather ear pad does have the tendency to get hot with longer play sessions. So there is a little bit of a trade-out there with that material as well. Next, let's cover what I don't like about this headset, and I really only have one thing, and that's the fixed position of the ear pads. The way these sit aren't ergonomic to anyone's head unless it's a perfect circle. So when I push these forward just a little bit on my head towards the front, it actually creates a better sound with the angle of the speakers being more optimal to my ear canals. And I can immediately hear that the normal angle that this sits at actually lets some of the outside ambient noise in, and that's actually disrupting the sound that you would normally hear, because if I push this forward, it just creates a better seal, so all of that noise goes away. So hopefully down the road we see an adjustment to this, and we see a version of this headset that actually allows the bottom portion where the drivers and the ear cushions are to actually swivel or just move forward or back. You would see this where you could actually rotate it all the way in and then lay the headset flat. You can't do that. If it had that, again, it's just going to be more ergonomic to everybody's head because it's going to create a better seal around the ear. Last, let's cover the gray area, which are things you may or may not care about, starting with the aesthetics, which are more of a gamer look. Now, I imagine as a general aesthetic, that's fine, as these are geared towards gamers, but within that community, I don't know that everybody buying these will like the aesthetics. The RGB on this is only the color spectrum, so you don't have any other option. You can either turn this off or you could just leave it on the color spectrum. Hopefully down the road we would have the ability to adjust this to other colors if we wanted to. RGB on headsets, though, it's one of those weird things where you're never going to actually see it on yourself, so it's kind of cool that it's there, but I don't think it's a deal breaker, and I don't know how often really you would be worried about what the color on the headset is. Next, the microphone here is pretty tinny. So the clarity here is okay. It's not something that I would use outside of just game chat. Some headsets I've reviewed, the microphone is good enough that it's like, hey, you could narrate video like I'm doing right now for this if you wanted to. With this, it's only going to be good enough really to use while you're gaming. I wouldn't use it in any other context. And you've probably noticed some pops or some sharp spikes in audio along the way. This doesn't come with a pop filter. It can adjust decently in terms of the amount of movement mobility that it has. It's not the best in that regard, but again, I think for most people, they're just going to be using this for game chat, so it's not going to be high on their priority list of concerns. But if it is, This may be, again, too tinny for you, and it may be something where it just doesn't have the amount of mobility, or you're getting the pops with it, and it's not the quality that you are really looking for. Last is something that isn't just geared specifically at this headset, and I don't know 100% why this happens, but it's where you will have a USB dongle that works with one console over another. For instance, right now it's going to work with the PlayStation 4 and 5, so you get the 7.1 surround sound out of this headset with that console, but if you want to use it on an Xbox, you actually have to use the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. I'm assuming that may have to do with software, with encoding software, whatever it may be in regards to one console or another. I've seen some that work with both, and that's awesome, but maybe it's also an issue where you have to license that with one company over another. Regardless, it just always kind of sucks when you see, hey, this works with a PlayStation but not an Xbox, or hey, this works with an Xbox but not a PlayStation. I wish it would just work across the board. That way everybody gets to enjoy the wireless feature with this. Well, that's going to be it for this one. I think the EKSA E1000 WT is a solid option for anyone wanting a wireless headset that has good 7.1 surround sound and a decent microphone that won't break the bank. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comment section, and I will make sure to answer that for you there. If you liked the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.